All right. Since we only have 2 hours, let's go ahead and get started. I will hand it over to Jaysha Ray here in a moment. Awesome. Fantastic. Jaysha's on camera. So yeah, Jaysha, if you would like to kick us off, floor is yours.
Hello, everyone.
Great. Hello, everyone. My name is Jaysha Ray. I'm the Associate Administrator for International Affairs at NTIA, the National Telecommunication and Information Administration. And I'll just start off by saying thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. I know it's a very busy time of year. So NTIA is just very pleased to be hosting this listening session to present the work that we've been leading through the Global Coalition on Telecommunication, or GCOT, within the Telecommunication Supplier Diversity Working Group for the last several months, which has been focused on developing a high-level policy document that we're calling the GCOT Certification Principles. The GCOT certification principles are envisioned as providing a set of high-level voluntary principles for consideration by industry that can be used to inform an industry-led Open RAN certification program. Now, NTIA is particularly grateful for your participation today, since we believe that industry must drive the development of an actual certification program or scheme. But government has a role to play in highlighting characteristics and goals that we feel would help enable the success of such a certification program. And your feedback today on the GCOT certification principles will be critical to ensuring our efforts are complementary and achieve the desired results. We also see the GCOT certification principles as complementary to other initiatives, like the Minimum Viable Profile, or MVP, which was recently released by the Alliance for Telecommunications Industry Solutions, or ATIS. As many of you know, the MVP establishes a minimum common set of technical requirements based on existing standards and specifications as guidance for the North American Open RAN market. The goal is to make it easier for developers of Open RAN equipment to meet operator requirements and improve interoperability. Whereas the GCOT certification principles outline a framework for principles that industry can use to inform the development of an Open RAN certification program. We hope that our industry colleagues will be able to use the GCOT certification principles to move forward on developing and implementing a certification program that would enable both existing and emerging companies to more readily demonstrate interoperability, performance, and security. We also hope that such a program would provide mobile network operators that may not be able to independently test each and every integrated Open RAN solution with the peace of mind that the products they're purchasing are mature and conformant. Now, I would like to take a moment to thank our colleagues from Canada's Department of Innovation, Science and Economic Development, ISED, and the UK's Department of Science, Innovation and Technology, DCET, as well as our Japanese and Australian GCOT member partners for their support in developing the principles. It has been a team effort, and we look forward to hearing your feedback, which we'll use to inform the final version of the GCOT certification principles document. So with no further ado, I'd like to hand the virtual mic over to my colleague, Kate Dinsdale, who will provide an overview of the principles thus far. And just thank you again, everyone, for taking the time to participate. We look forward to hearing from you. And over to Kate.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jaysha. And thanks again to you all for joining us this morning. As a reminder, and apologies, I forgot to say this at the top, we are recording this session just for your awareness. And so with that, again, my name is Kate Dinsdale. I'm a telecoms policy specialist in NTIA's Office of International Affairs. And as Jaysha said, this is truly a critical piece of the development of these principles. And we really appreciate any and all feedback you might have for us today or even after the listening session. So NTIA, with support from MITRE, as well as our colleagues Vu Nguyen and Jafar Hassan from the Department of Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, and Tom Rumbelow from the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology, United Kingdom, helped develop the GCOT certification principles, which I'll speak to more about here in a moment. But just quickly, as a refresher, and this was included in the Federal Registry notice, but the Global Coalition on Telecommunications, which consists of the UK, Australia, Canada, Japan, and the US government, was established in October 2023 as the most comprehensive grouping of like-minded partners on a range of telecoms related topics, including telecom supplier diversity. And GCOT aims to increase cooperation and coordination between GCOT partners on telecoms, including by improving information sharing, build broader international consensus on key areas of telecommunications policy in support of our shared objectives, enable dialogue between policymakers, industry, and academia, and promote innovation and growth opportunities for industry. And NTIA has led the development of the GCOT certification principles on behalf of all GCOT partners, which recognize the importance of the development of a robust certification program to advance the maturity of the Open RAN market. My ISED, DCIT, and MITRE colleagues have all joined today and will be able to help me answer any questions in the chat that might arise as I'm going through these slides, as well as during the question and answer feedback portion of the session after I finish this presentation. I'm hoping this presentation won't take more than 20 minutes or so. And we really want to spend most of the time hearing from y'all. So with that, let's go ahead and dive right in. So as we all know, open network approaches like Open RAN represent a significant shift in the telecoms industry by offering an alternative to the traditional approach of vertically integrated proprietary systems provided by single suppliers. And now mobile operators have multiple options for architecting their RAN, selecting vendors, and customizing radio functions. With the newfound flexibility presented by Open RAN approaches, there is, of course, newfound complexity as well as potential interoperability issues when integrating multi-vendor solutions. MNOs may lack the resources to independently test each integrated Open RAN solution, and Open RAN suppliers may be unable to individually demonstrate interoperability, performance, and security to every potential customer. And so based on feedback shared by industry with NTIA, it's become clear that there is a need for certification in the Open RAN market to provide confidence that customers will receive a sufficiently mature product that's conformant with Open RAN standards to ensure that Open RAN solutions are interoperable and highly performant and secure. And while we recognize that the industry certainly leads the charge here, we do believe that governments have a role to play to support the development of these approaches. Governments can help build local ecosystems, support small businesses, address trade barriers, etc. And so these principles really build on existing work that's been done by groups like the Telecom Infra Project and the ORAN Alliance. They represent GCOT member country views and positions with regard to the need for a certification program that enables both existing and new companies to demonstrate interoperability, performance, and security, while also providing operators that, again, may or may not be able to independently test each and every integrated Open RAN solution with the peace of mind that the products they're purchasing are mature and conforming. They're in no way prescriptive and they're fully voluntary. They are simply GCOT partner views on what a successful certification program might take into consideration and or include. And so really wanted to emphasize this point up front that industry really drives here and would be the lead on developing any any certification program. But these are our kind of high-level views. So with that framing, these are the high-level objectives we see the GCOT certification principles having. So providing high-level principles, again, that are fully voluntary, that the industry can then take to inform a robust certification program for Open RAN components. Again, the GCOT certification principles don't serve as a certification program themselves, nor do they serve as an exhaustive list of instructions on how to create an Open RAN certification program? No, it's a voluntary framework for the Open RAN industry to develop a robust, comprehensive certification program. The audience for the GCOT certification principles is the Open RAN industry, including mobile network operators, Open RAN hardware and software suppliers, infrastructure providers, systems integrators, and any other entity that may be involved in the development and operation of an Open RAN certification program. So in drafting the document, we developed three primary sections: certification, governance, and integrity, cost-effective implementation, and facilitating adoption, to provide a kind of framework of considerations for any industry-developed certification program. I'll go through these three sections presently. All right. So the certification, governance, and integrity section looks at identifying clear roles and responsibilities for the various ecosystem stakeholders as essential. We want to build upon the existing certification frameworks to date, like that I mentioned from the ORAN Alliance and the Telecom Infra Project. And so we did this by kind of really outlining clear roles and responsibilities for the different stakeholders. Sorry, I'm just going to, thought I heard somebody come off mic, so I'm just going to mute that person. Awesome. So some examples include network operators, right? Network operators select certified Open RAN solutions that align with their specific network requirements and performance goals. Hardware, software manufacturers innovate and develop Open RAN compliant equipment that adheres to established certification standards. Passive infrastructure providers can offer physical and virtual resources necessary for the operation and management of representative Open RAN networks used in testing. Systems integrators ensure seamless integration of certified Open RAN components from different vendors within the network architecture, etc. We also included possible sources for certification, as a certification program should work with existing standards and specification organizations such as 3GPP and the ORAN Alliance to develop the requisite certification tests. Ideally, these would be developed in such a way that they are standard across testing labs and, where possible, don't require any specific or self-developed test in addition, like for a given region, for instance. We also discuss in this section kind of the types of testing, where conformance testing is defined as the adherence of interfaces, subsystems, and end-to-end systems with specs produced by the appropriate standards and specification bodies. Interoperability testing, where involving verifying that components from different vendors can seamlessly work together with the Open RAN ecosystem. Performance testing, focusing on customer-defined requirements, key performance indicators, and features, which will need to be tailored for specific use cases, architectures, and deployment environments. And of course, security testing that adheres to local and regulatory security requirements first and foremost, but also encompasses various aspects of conformance testing with additional security testing to be tailored to specific use cases, and capturing best practices like the ORAN Alliance's Working Group 9, the Security Focus Group, or 3GPP Security Assurance Specifications. Oversight, transparency, conformity assessment bodies, or CABs as I like to call them, accreditation and continuous improvement are also critical pieces to the certification program pie, if you will. Any Open RAN certification program needs to be reflective of the diverse marketplace it is supporting and not be biased in favor of one market segment or region. Take an open and rigorous approach to allow fair access for new participants and external scrutiny. Having the capability for certifications issued to be independently verifiable and repeatable by other qualified labs will ensure consistency and minimize the risk of errors specific to a particular testing environment with standard testing protocol. And obviously, as Open RAN specifications and standards develop, any certification program will need to be updated to reflect this. And so there'll also need to be flexibility to any certification program developed. So this cost-effective implementation section focuses on accessibility, so certification programs available to companies of all sizes, automation, the need to leverage existing resources such as professional certification lab services, and also provides an example of a certification structure, which I think I'd like to focus mostly on the kind of proposed certification structure and the corresponding scope that we propose, which again is just an example or proposal. But we focus the structure on kind of three tiers, the private network, enterprise network, and carrier network certifications. And so the private network tier, of course, small scale deployments like for smaller enterprises and private networks. The technical requirements here would be, basic functionality testing, interoperability with common Open RAN components and interfaces, basic security compliance against common vulnerabilities, simplified deployment and management capabilities, etc. Enterprise network tier would be the medium scale deployments, regional service providers for regional service providers and larger enterprises. The technical requirements here might be enhanced functionality testing across broader operational capabilities, advanced interoperability with diverse Open RAN components and systems, heightened security measures with advanced threat detection and mitigation capabilities, performance metrics, and moderate scalability to accommodate a moderate number of users and devices. And then the third tier was kind of this carrier network tier, right? For larger scale deployments for operators and global service providers, covering different deployment cases like massive MIMO, urban neutral host, etc. And the technical requirements here would obviously be a bit more comprehensive, right? So like functionality testing, covering all operational aspects, full interoperability across extensive Open RAN ecosystems, legacy systems, advanced security protocols meeting stringent standards and best practices, rigorous performance and reliability testing under diverse and heavy operational conditions, high scalability to support large numbers of users, and of course, regulatory compliance with all relevant standards and requirements. And this approach would help MNOs by providing detailed insights into supplier capabilities, enabling them to select vendors with products and solutions that meet the specific requirements that are most aligned with their network needs. The program could also scale by adding new modules as Open RAN technology evolves. The scope of Open RAN certification should, of course, ensure that the interface or function under test is standards compliant, functions seamlessly, and integrates smoothly with other network elements as defined by the use case for the certification. And this is adaptable. This scope is adaptable. It really ensures robust performance, security, and interoperability across deployment scales, in our view. The third and final section on facilitating adoption focuses on the fact that an Open RAN certification program would be most successful if operators and other network builders and users, like wireless internet service providers and private network customers, require the certification in their procurement processes. As far as a certification program's value proposition to its possible or potential customers, a certification program would need to highlight that certification provides a tool to achieve greater vendor choice and competition, translating to potentially lower costs, operational efficiencies, and access to more innovative solutions. Showcase how certification minimizes deployment risks by ensuring Open RAN components meet interoperability and performance requirements, noting that minimizing compatibility issues leads to smoother deployments and reduced network downtime, a key benefit for operators, of course, as well as emphasize how the certification program allows for flexibility to align with evolving Open RAN technology and standards, and create opportunities for operators to showcase successful deployments of certified Open RAN solutions, where case studies and testimonials can serve as valuable proof points. As far as industry support, any certification program developed should build support amongst suppliers in the Open RAN market and avoid fragmentation across jurisdictions, as well as be designed to attract and retain a broad range of suppliers, which can be done by promoting transparency and openness, reducing barriers and increasing accessibility for all suppliers, supporting collaboration and knowledge sharing within the Open RAN industry stakeholders, recognizing and promoting a level playing field for all suppliers by maintaining a publicly accessible certification registry, and taking a more informative approach rather than a kind of pass-fail result approach, which would help to highlight areas where equipment excels, to allow smaller players to showcase their strengths. And then taking into consideration kind of unique national circumstances and priorities, governments can also accelerate the adoption of an Open RAN certification program by considering requiring certification for specific relevant products to be eligible for government procurement. Again, underscoring here that governments should avoid developing or operating Open RAN certification programs themselves. Governments can also provide tax incentives, grants, or funding programs for Open RAN certification initiatives, including those aimed at supporting the participation of smaller operators and suppliers. Coordinate with international partners to share experiences such as R&D, breakthroughs, pilot programs, best practices, you name it. And in tandem with industry, coordinate with international partners to support capacity building, general education, and workforce development initiatives around the world. We're really glad to see about 34 folks on the line today. Thanks again for taking the time. I think it's really important for us to get 35. It's really important for us to get a diversity of views here. And we truly do welcome any and all feedback from industry, academia, and other stakeholders on key themes here that I've discussed. Once we've had a chance to hear from you and then incorporate any and all feedback we hear today, we'll be working internally within GCOT to circulate edits and comments. And then if you would like to see kind of the final draft where we incorporate all comments received today, I'm happy to share the final draft with folks. If you want to reach out to me, Kate Dimsdale, my email address will be on the last slide, and then it was also included in the Federal Registry notice, and I can also put it in the chat for ease of access. But please do reach out to me. I think probably on or around December 16th. I'm going to give us about 2 weeks to incorporate edits, and I'll happily share the latest version. We're really primarily looking for general comments on key themes and points rather than line by line edits. So one caveat there. And we will do our best to incorporate your feedback as appropriate. And just reiterating that we didn't want to post the document online in advance of the listening session, just because we wanted to avoid confusion in terms of like once we post the final version. And so again, reach out to me if you'd like to see the latest draft. That'll likely be on around, again, December 16th. And so with that, I think we have reached the kind of questions as well as feedback section. Again, here's my email address, and I'll put it in the chat. And how can we provide feedback now without seeing the draft? Well, folks are welcome to come off of mute to provide feedback. And if they're having issues, just let me know. Yes. And also, if the question is more generally, Sydney, like how you can provide feedback without seeing the draft, hopefully the presentation that I just gave was helpful in providing the kind of high level overview of each of the sections. Happy to kind of walk through it if need be. But yeah. Yeah, so I see a couple of hands raised. Nick, would you be able to come off of mute?
Yes, I think so.
Awesome, fantastic. I can hear you.
Thank you. No, thank you for the presentation. For some reason, I didn't see the slides during your presentations that says the content can't be displayed. So I don't know if that others had that same issue, but if there's a way to share the slide deck with us, that would be very helpful. If not the actual document itself. Thank you.
Oh, good. I was about to be like, oh no, nobody could see the slides. But it looks like some folks could, so that's a plus. Yay for technical glitches, and I'm happy to share the slides. Maybe I will try to stop sharing and then reshare to see if folks will be able to see them. In the meantime, John, did you have any feedback?
Okay, I think John's mic's muted. If you can undo that.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Kate. Yeah, thanks. And I could see the slide, so didn't have any problems from that perspective, but I've been having a few audio problems. Great, and thanks for setting up this session. I think it's great initiative. To some of the comments on some of the proposals, really two points really to that would like to take as the suggestions. Really, that the ecosystem needs a firm mission to be, really essentially to be issued by the ORAN Alliance, specifying what a minimum ORAN product is. We have situations today where vendors say, we've got one interface, and therefore that's an ORAN compliant product. But in reality, you can interoperate on one interface, but you can't do full interoperability testing end to end, and that still, constitutes vendor lock. So, there needs to be a minimum defined set of technical requirements, technical interfaces, such as been done with the ATIS MVP specification. And really, operators and vendors, should really follow those definitions. Now, operators can decide obviously what they want to include and what they don't want to include, but really this is more to help the vendor community, have similar comparable products that can compete in the marketplace. If every product has a different set of interfaces, then it makes it very difficult to compete, makes it impossible to interoperate. and allows the vendor lock situation to continue as normal. But this comes back to the fact that the ORAN Alliance has not yet specified what an ORAN product is. It's got an ORAN architecture. It's got all done a great job on all the ORAN interfaces, but no definition of what constitutes an ORAN product. Secondly, the other point around this is really the global industry should really align around a single certification label. We've got the situation now where there's multiple badges that organizations are proposing, such as TIP and the ORAN Alliance. We've got different badge criteria, and what goes beyond those badge criteria, etc. That's it's a bit of unknown. Also, I think as of today, I think the last count on the ecosystem, we have over 29 OTIC labs or government assisted labs on a global basis, and I think it's fair to say not one of them is working towards an accreditation process of have the ability to test the product in exactly the same way, such that you can take a product from lab to lab and get the same set of results. So there needs to be some sort of level of lab certification, some recognition of a common certification label, and then an oversight of laboratories to ensure that product is being tested correctly. And at this point, because at this point in time, the badges don't mean the products can interoperate, and it doesn't mean that they're ready for deployment. And as I say, really comes back to a system that allows product to be taken to anywhere in the world and be used by any operator without having to go through retesting a retesting process. So in a sense, the economics of the process should be that there's minimal cost to the vendor effectively in terms of getting their products type approved, in the same way that you can take handsets today. You can take a handset from one certification process and take it to anywhere in the world, and it interoperates. So that's a sort of a good regime, if you like, of how product should be tested. But I think they're the main suggestions, certainly on the proposals as you've presented them, Kate. Thanks very much.
Lovely, thanks, John. Yeah, certainly, I think the GCOT certification principles are trying to simplify and really drive adoption. So your points are well taken. Any other feedback, questions for us? It looks like Rajaraman, if you're trying to speak, we can't hear you, so you might have to leave and come back, perhaps. Your mic should be allowed, so. Hello, Brian, go for it.
Thanks, Kate. Good morning, everybody. This is Brian Larkin from Kate's team. Kate, not a question, because obviously I'm tracking this important initiative, but just to help stimulate discussion, one thing we could throw out to the group here would just be, are there any other considerations or key elements of a principles framework like this that maybe we haven't covered or that you all feel are important?
Great question. Thanks, Brian. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I forgot to add to the points about making sure that there's a self-certification process that can be used by vendors as well. And again, it may be the same oversight process to the vendors, but again, cost is a sort of a major issue, and we don't really want cost, a very, very high level cost structure. Except that test labs have got to make money and have good business plans, etc. But at the end of the day, we've all got to be on a similar cost plane so we can compete with our untrusted counterparts, essentially.
Thanks, John. And Thomas, well, you can come off of mute.
It'd be good to hear from the operators to understand what they would accept as the minimum requirement before it goes into their labs and into their verification processes. So I agree with the handset principle. So, the operators put a lot of work into the device approvals process, but they still take those devices into their own labs sometimes before they get approved for use on their network. So it'd be good to hear from the operators what they see as the minimum requirements before going into their verification processes.
That's super helpful, yes. And I think also one other question that we might have here, right, is if industry is on board, agrees that government can help in this role and putting forward kind of these high-level principles that are voluntary, that are just a way of framing what a potential certification program might look like. Any high-level thoughts there? Thanks, John. Yes, please.
Yeah, sorry, I can I can stay at this all day. This is my favorite subject. No, I think one point to add is that through 3GPP, the RAN does have a type approval process already in place for the radio. And given that the Open RAN components all essentially connect to the radio, and the radio still has to, be 3GPP compliant, and those radios are tested through external test houses, etc. This process needs to be sort of a continuous flow from that process to make sure that 3GPP compliance doesn't get invalidated. And but the similar process there, where vendors take their radios to a registered third-party test house and get them approved today, and that process works very well. And again, that's another guideline to follow for the CU, DU, etc., and add some additional test requirements on the RU.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Another helpful kind of point from John, our favorite speaker. Krasniki?
Yeah, I'm Jaffer Krasniki from Digital Catapult. I just want to know if this document would highlight the different categories of badging and certification, and whether there would be an indication from the operators as what levels of badging or certification they would accept or be happy with.
No, I don't think that we'd go into that amount of detail. Welcome kind of my co-drafters' thoughts here, since these are primarily kind of high-level principles. But again, like if Boo Jafar or Herba have anything to add, please jump in. Thanks, Tom. Perfect. Yes. Thanks, Purva. Okay. Lovely. So again, I mean, any we welcome any additional kind of feedback, thoughts, questions. We're happy to I'm happy to stay on until maybe about 10 or so if folks are interested. I think also if folks have kind of any additional thoughts on like the certification principle broadly as an idea, and of course the government's role in kind of putting forward certification principles, I think we would really welcome those. And then I think in terms of when the earliest we would be able to share the draft would be, that would probably be on December 16th. On or around December 16th, and you would be able to reach out to me via email if of interest. And I'll include my email in the chat here in a second. Brian had his hand up.
Thanks, Kate. Yes, I'm just Brian Larkin again. So recognizing that, we're kind of describing this at a high level in principle, et cetera, et cetera. It would be helpful to know if anyone on the line has sort of significant concerns about an initiative like this. I think it's really constructive. I don't think I can easily foresee any, but if there's any pitfalls or big concerns to watch out for here, we would also welcome hearing about those too, if anyone has thoughts on that, that they could share today.
This is Andrew again. A quick question: is the intention for this to be a government-led process, i.e., DCIT via Sonic Labs, FCC, whatever the organizations are, that this is going to be a global it says global certification process, but is the intention that if the approval is given in one country, it will be deemed as being fit for all others? And a DCIT involved in this, which other countries are signing up to this process?
Yeah, ideally we would have an international process, where all companies, sorry, not all companies, all countries would be able to utilize a global certification program. And when you do testing in one country, you could be certain that your product or whatever component would work in another country. I think the idea is that these would be generally adopted. There could, of course, be regional variances through things like user equipment or handsets, but I think we're hoping for kind of a general approach here and adoption. And Tom, did you have a comment?
Yeah, okay. Just to come back on the DCIT and Sonic specific points there, Andrew. So I think we fully intend this to be kind of an industry-led work, and kind of we've spoken to TIP and the Alliance a bit about this already, as kind of we're anticipating them to be kind of the main kind of drivers of this work that they're already doing. In terms of Sonic involvement, so it's not going to be something prescriptive that we as DCIT are kind of forcing upon them. We work with Sonic very closely, kind of in partnership, and kind of I think we'll expect them to be involving themselves in kind of international certification programs as and when they develop and reach kind of the right level of maturity. And hopefully these principles can give a baseline for what we think a good international program could look like, that we would want Sonic to be part of.
Thanks, Tom. Hopefully that helped answer your question. And again, I think just to kind of underline the point, I think the GCOT certification principles are a high level and totally voluntary framework, if you will, of what a kind of GCOT governments think would be useful for an industry-led certification program if one were to be developed. So simply put, perhaps maybe a high-level policy document, if you will. And again, we are happy to kind of share the document with folks if you want to reach out to me, and also accept additional feedback via email if folks don't necessarily have comments, questions, additional questions today. And we definitely wanted to provide an opportunity for folks to hear from us about kind of our framing of what the GCOT certification principles are. But happy to accept additional comments via email. Though again, we're looking at kind of the high level key themes rather than line by line edits. So if there are, I'm happy to, I'll probably stay on again until 10 or so. If folks have, any additional questions that kind of arise. I think otherwise,
Hi,
definitely
Kate.
reach out to me. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
This is Tom Tran from the FCC.
Oh,
I do
lovely.
have a question regarding this principle. So what happened next once the principle, let's say, is finalized? I'm still kind of unclear in terms of the next step.
Yeah, so once the principles are finalized, ideally we'll publish them publicly, and then ideally industry would be able to kind of use it as a reference to develop a certification program that kind of reflects the ideas and the principles within the GCOT certification principles document. And it's essentially a reference document for industry to utilize in developing a certification program.
Right. So, as the Open RAN, the 5G fund that we have allocated $900 million for incentives for Open RAN deployments. So we're looking at, what are the requirements to be able to, for the operator to claim as an Open RAN operator or, Open RAN deployment. There are different pieces of the puzzle that we need to put together. So from a requirement perspective, so right now, we do have some standards and some certifications, but like you say, it's all over the map, and so that's basically our needs at the moment. It's what constitutes an Open RAN deployment. Is it just an open front haul, open mid haul, open back haul, and that kind of stuff? So yeah, so we have ideas, but we're also looking for ideas.
Yeah, certainly. And I mean, certainly it goes to John's kind of first point, right? What are the minimum requirements for Open RAN deployments? What is an Open RAN deployment? And I think certainly we have some ideas there, but certainly don't want to be prescriptive in this certification principles document, but I'm happy to chat with you more about that offline because I'd be interested to hear your thoughts.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. All right. So if folks don't have any additional questions, comments, concerns, I will, again, I'll stay on until about 10. But otherwise, please do reach out to me if you would like to see the slides. Hopefully, Nick, you were able to see the slides at some point. And then also we'll be able to share a draft on or around December 16th. And we'd welcome high level kind of feedback on key themes there. So yeah, thank you for taking the time, and I'll be here if folks have additional questions.
Well, so Kate, just to follow up on my previous question, in terms of, so once the document is out, the principle is finalized per se, what, I mean, do industry know, a lot of the industry players knows about this program, and, what would be the incentive for them to follow this principle? So, and then also the timeline is important. It's going to take 5 years to implement the principle versus 1 year. That would be a big difference. So, is there, what's your thoughts on to expedite this process of or why adoption of this principle?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. GCOT governments have a variety of different incentives, and work with industry to support the Open RAN ecosystem's development. And just speaking for NTIA, we have our Public Wireless Supply Chain Innovation Fund, and we have a variety of different kind of MOUs and bilateral and multilateral engagements with other countries. And so I think that can be a sort of incentive for adopting and or I suppose utilizing the principles document as a kind of framework for any certification program that is developed by industry. I think I forgot your second question. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's just mainly with that question. It's just how would the industry adopt? I don't know, adopt is the right word, but follow the principle, and how do they say we follow the GCOT principle, or is it it's kind of fuzzy in terms of how they would go about implementing the principle.
Right. Well, I mean, it would kind of go toward the slide that I had on let's see, sort of certification governance and integrity, right? I mean, so in that section, we had a really strong kind of roles and responsibilities piece that included the network operators, hardware, software manufacturers, et cetera, the operators being like the general customer, and the other kind of potentially certification bodies that I mentioned being the drivers of network, a certification program. And so it depends on who ultimately ends up leading the charge on a certification program. I think Open RAN adoption will certainly allow us to realize like the cost benefit of multi-vendor environments. And ideally the timeline would be now and going forward as we're moving to 5G and advanced 5G and then towards 6G. And then I think the kind of scope and the high level structure that we also shared, which I believe is in our cost effective implementation section that I talked about, the kind of 3 tiers. I think hopefully that would help in terms of implementation of any certification program. Certainly, I think it's, again, not prescriptive. We're not trying to say that whatever certification program is developed must follow the kind of private network, enterprise network, and carrier network kind of structure and scope. But it's a suggestion that industry could use to kind of implement the certification principles.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, great to be in touch. I'm happy, and I'll be here. Especially if industry has any additional kind of thoughts, comments, questions. Happy to take those. Otherwise, also happy to take emails with your thoughts and comments if you're shy. And I'll certainly share the draft with folks as well. All right. See a lot of folks still on, but no questions or comments. Intriguing. Now folks are logging off. All right, well, I might go ahead and just close it out. unless there are any last second questions, comments.
Thanks, Kate. Appreciate you hosting.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, thanks for chairing, Kate.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll be in touch then, and certainly reach out to me with any questions. And thanks again for taking the time.
Bye.
Perfect. Thank you. Bye.